set.
Good. All right, welcome tonight to everyone's school committee meeting. Jen, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. All right, this is the first meeting since our local elections. Matt, congratulations, you ran a strong campaign against no one. So you're back for another 3 years. But we do have to reorganize. So at this point, the superintendent will take temporary charge of the meeting.
Yep, 25 seconds or so.
See how we do.
At this time, I will accept nominations for the position of chair.
Make a motion to nominate Mike Fontanella as chairman.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you.
It wasn't even 20 seconds.
You sure you want? Exactly. I will now entertain nominations for vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Matt Hunt for vice chair.
Second.
There's a second on that. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none. All those in favor of Matt as vice chair?
Aye.
Aye.
Terrific. And then we have one more position. We need a secretary.
Make a motion to nominate Erica Podgorny as secretary.
Second.
Motion made second. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, Eric, congratulations. All right, and then we need to go through the subcommittee appointments.
Oh, wait, here, Matt.
Yeah, literally.
Here, you want me to take it over?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's not throw.
And concede the power over.
Bettina, have to
Bettina.
take notes and then
Take
we'll
notes.
we'll send
I'll
you
take
the
it.
notes.
There we go.
To make it easy.
All right, so we just need to go through the subcommittee assignments. So first one is the Bradford Sampson Scholarship Trust. It's currently Daryl. Like it, Daryl? Does anybody else want to get on it? No, we're good? All right, we'll leave Daryl there. The second one is the Permanent School Planning Committee. Right now, there is no need for that. The evaluation for the superintendent's evaluation, Daryl's been leading out for that for several years. He does a stupendous job. But
Yeah, but I'd like to get somebody else involved in that since I'm not planning on continuing.
Okay, all right.
There, so.
Any volunteers for assuming that responsibility?
I can work on that.
Okay. Everybody good with that?
Mhm.
Erica is now in charge of the superintendent's evaluation. Regionalization Study Committee, at this point, there is no move towards that, so we'll pass on that one. The Municipal Building Committee,
Oh, I'll keep that one.
we're going to keep that one, we appreciate that. Technology Committee is currently Matt.
Anybody else wants it?
Anybody-
I'll keep it if,
Okay. Doesn't seem
If
like
you don't
anybody's-
want it, I mean, I don't mind, but I don't know if you're trying to get rid of it.
no.
Okay, that's fine.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll leave that at Matt Hunt. Legislation is currently Erica Podgorny.
I'm happy to give that one up. I haven't really done much.
Does anybody want to
I'll
get?
trade you policy.
Either way.
Ooh, now we're horse
Now we're
trading.
trading.
It doesn't seem like a sweet deal for Erica. You might want to push back on that one a
I
little
want to
bit.
think about that
It's like a game show all of a sudden. This is interesting.
And $5. I'm sure
I
that's not
know.
legal.
That one.
All right. Does anybody want to jump on the legislation committee?
I'll take it, that's fine.
All right.
I can
Matt.
continue.
Matt will supplant Erica. Now, I don't know, I feel like we should put the policy last, but let's go ahead and get it over with. It's currently Jen. Does anybody else want to take a crack at that? Daryl is definitely not the right pick because he is leaving and he's done a lot of yeoman's work on that over the years.
I'll do it.
Eric is going to take a shot at policy.
I will, I mean,
Okay.
we'll work together.
Okay.
yeah, because there's a lot to show about it, so.
All
You've
right.
seen some.
Yeah.
Oath to bills and payroll is just the going in to sign when necessary. I'm around, I'm happy to continue to do that. It's not a big deal. Liaison with town government. I've done it as the chair for the last couple of years. I'm happy to keep doing it, but if other people want to get deeper into it,
I wouldn't mind doing that with you. I don't think I want to
let's,
take it on.
the chair pretty much has that
Right.
responsibility
Right.
implicitly.
Yeah.
So let's make you the explicit assignment on that.
Okay.
And then I'll, we'll do it together and as the chair, and
Okay.
and that's fine, okay? Negotiating committee, we will, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Clenchey, we should in the fall start to talk to the LEA about negotiating
That's correct.
the next phase of the contract. So that will become active probably in the fall, moving through the winter and spring. It's active at times, even when we're not negotiating, but it'll be much busier this coming year than it has been the last 2 years. I'm happy to stay on it for one more go-round.
I'd like to stay on it, didn't really get much experience on it last year.
The last time we negotiated a contract, it was Mike Mazzoni and I. But, if anybody else really wants to take a shot at it, I'll tell you what, why don't we do this? Why don't we leave it the way it is, and as we get closer, because we'll be in executive session talking about our strategies for that. If we decide, at that point, we can decide more definitively how we want to proceed with that in terms of assignment. Is that all right? Representative to Community Service Park and Rec, it's currently Matt.
Keep it if nobody wants it. If anybody wants it, feel free. I guess I'll take it.
Okay. The Budget Subcommittee is currently Matt and I.
I love the budget, but again, if anybody wants to get their feet wet and try it out, they can get some experience. Otherwise, I'll keep it.
Anybody looking to glom onto that one? Okay, we'll leave it the way it is.
Quiet over here.
Erica's
He
a
said
policy.
he liked it. He said he liked it.
I do like
There's
it.
no reason to take something.
Safety and Security is currently Erica. Do you want to
I'd
stay?
like to keep that.
Okay. CPAC, currently Jen.
I'll keep it if anybody else wants
Okay, I think we're good on that. All right, appreciate that.
it. So,
Yep.
just to, since you took over policy, should we, I lost the thing, I don't mind gaining something else if we want to go back over anything. Anybody have? No?
You want technology?
I'll take Sham.
Well,
All right.
did you,
Technology or legislation,
Doesn't
either one,
matter.
yeah,
whatever.
I thought you did take legislation.
Oh, did I? Okay.
Yes, you did.
Yeah,
Okay.
we did.
Okay, that's fine then.
And we're
And I
good.
don't mind
Okay.
either way. Okay,
All right. we're good.
cool. Thanks.
All right, we're good with that. All right, now we're going to track back towards our more standard agenda. We have a consent agenda, the minutes from May 9th, 2019, and oath to bills and payroll.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay. There are typically two sections in the meeting where we allow input from interested citizens, one now and one at the end of the meeting. We do have a presentation from a community member on later school start times. If you're here to talk about that, I would wait, and we'll have a special community input section, interested citizen section during that, that agenda item. But if you can't stay, or if you have other business you would like to talk about in front of the school committee, now is one of your 3 chances tonight. Are there any community members that want to speak? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. Recognition, we have student representative report.
Hello everyone, thank you for having me. So at Shaker Lane this week, students enjoyed Outdoor Classroom Day, where teachers planned a variety of educational activities for students to enjoy outside. And Shaker Lane staff would like to thank the PTA and the parent community for hosting a staff appreciation lunch earlier this month. At Russell Street on Monday, the PTA had a meeting to recruit new members at 7:30 in the cafeteria. And at the middle school this week, the 6th graders had Nature's Classroom and the 8th graders had the DC trip. And also the 7th and 8th grade dance is coming up. At the high school, tomorrow is the last day for most seniors, and next week is senior send-off on Thursday. This week, actually tonight, is the Drowsy Chaperone High School musical. And the shows are tonight, tomorrow night, and 1 and 7 o'clock on Saturday. So on the first week of June, freshmen are taking their math MCAS on June 4th and June 5th. And the graduation rehearsal will be taking place on June 7th. Well, graduation is on June 7th, and rehearsals will be taking place earlier. So June 13th, the academic awards are at 7 p.m., and June 19th is the last day of school. So it's coming to a wrap.
Yeah, it's a busy time of year. Exciting. All right, thank you. Other recognition, Dr. Clinch?
I'd like to recognize Mrs. McGregor, our STEAM integration specialist, for being appointed to the MassQ Professional Development Committee. So, quite a nice opportunity for Mrs. McGregor, and also a great opportunity for our district as well.
All right, great. All right, we're going to move into presentations. Our first presentation is from the PTA. Timlin Rossius is here with her second of her twice-a-year presentation for us.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me again. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Timlin Rossius. I'm president of the PTA here in Littleton. So we put together a little presentation for you this time instead of just me spewing out stuff and not remembering it. So this year we have 257 members. It's fewer families than the past couple of years, but as you can see, our staff is up, which is excellent. We've been wanting to get the staff more involved with the PTA, and we've established, I think, at every school, at least a staff member coming to the meetings every month so that we can get involvement and hear what they're liking, not liking, needing, what we can work towards. All right, the next slide is, so overall, I counted it up. We have put back into the schools this year alone over $66,000 worth of either items or programs or paid for buses for field trips. So in addition to that, we raised $325,279 at, and I forgot to put the name, Donlands Tapes for Education. They're great. And you can see the list of items that the schools have picked, everything from pencils and sharpeners to basketballs and fans and dry erase markers and boards. And so it's a really good program, and I'd like to thank Mary Beers. She collects all of the slips and adds them all up every year and has been doing it for many years now. And it's a lot of work for one person. So let's see, at the executive board level, we did staff appreciation luncheon this year. We've attended the Massachusetts and national programs to find new opportunities for our schools, and we're going to try to implement those. As this year, we're implementing our first color run, which is an all-school event, and the monies raised will go back, we'll split it evenly between the schools. That's our first thing that we, I think in my time, in the 13 years I've been doing it, we've ever done one fundraiser. And then we do a scholarship every year for a graduating senior for $500. And we're not going to tell you who it is because I don't know if they've been told yet. So at Shaker Lane, we were able to pay for 2 sets of leveled readers at each grade level, a Birds of Prey presentation, 2 Discovery Museum presentations, magazine subscriptions, owl pellets for the first grade, a high-tech, high-touch presentation, staff appreciation luncheon. I mean, I won't read everything, but you can see that there's a lot. So they've also implemented a lot of family gatherings at Shaker Lane where they chalked the sidewalks this year. I think I mentioned it at my last time when I came. They had chalked the sidewalks for all the kids to come back. They came in and did welcoming back for the teachers and students. And just this past Mother's Day, they assembled over 90 Mother's Day bags to bring to the Lowell Wish Project. And the kids came in and helped with that. So at Russell Street, we've done the Excellence in Teaching Award, flexible seating for Miss Love. They did Native American books for the library, stools for the classroom, flex seating, chairs, bands. I think that's supposed to say chair stands for classroom. Oh no, chair bands. Chair bands.
Yeah.
I was thinking for band. So it looks like we've done a lot of alternative seating at Russell Street to help the kids. Let's see, we do every year, the Kristen McAuliffe Center field trip, we give money to them. We give about $2,000 so that it alleviates the cost of that for the parents. We brought in Potato Hill Poetry, the high-tech, high-touch there, Discovery Museums, magazine subscriptions, and the teacher appreciation income. Yeah, that all the teacher appreciation meets, luncheons just happened. At the middle school, we've done a few speakers. The Holocaust speaker is coming in soon. They did the Lost Boys of Sudan speaker, which my son is in 6th grade, and that was one of the things he came home and talked about. We just had a water fill station. So they got a water fill station at Shaker Lane, and that was just recently installed. No. Which one was installed? Yours?
We were working on it currently.
Working on it. Was Shaker Lane's installed? Does anybody know?
Not yet, it's going in soon.
It's going in soon. So we purchased 2 water fill stations, one for Shaker Lane, one for the middle school.
Those things are awesome.
And we're figuring out how to get those in. Novels for 6th grade ELA, 7th grade history whiteboards, some subscriptions. And then they've organized at LMS, they've done 3 6th grade kids night out nights, cornhole tournament, the staff appreciation, and they do candy bars for 8th grade graduation now. We left the cake and we go to candy bars for everyone. So that's coming up. Then at the high school, we've put 2 digital cameras into the digital photo class. We replaced a refrigerator in the staff lounge because they didn't have a refrigerator. 2 microwaves for the cafe for the students, buses for 3 field trips. There's not as much as at the high school level because there's so many clubs that raise money for themselves. And we also, which not on here, is we were paying for 5 girls to go to the STEM program. Only 4 signed up for it. So we paid for 4 girls to go. We had our trivia night at the high school, and they're coming up with the student recognition breakfast, but the senior send-off, teacher of the year, and end of year ice cream social. So we had a big year this year. But anybody have questions? This year it was easier because it was on a spreadsheet. I got my stuff together this year. It was easier. But thank you for letting me come and talk to you guys, and hopefully color run.
Questions or comments?
June 1st, color run, if everybody's around.
That's at Russell Street, right?
It is at Russell Street. I believe it's at 2 o'clock at Russell Street. There's a 1-mile fun run, and there is a 5K. And we're looking for teachers and staff members to throw the color at the kids. Because we have 22 teachers signed up right now to throw color. But I think the kids will enjoy the 1-mile fun run with the teachers doing that.
Yeah, I know that there has been an email blast out to people looking for volunteers and help. I'm wondering if you have
Yes.
gotten any help?
Yes, so once there was an email that sent out. Russell Street we have like this bubble where there's parents graduating onto the middle school and no one coming up from Shaker Lane. So we got nervous because there was only 1 or 2 parents left at Russell Street to run all the programs that they do and to order. So we put out a plea and just said, if we don't have the volunteers, we can't put the money back into the school. We can't raise the money to put it back in the school. So if you don't step up to volunteer, your kids, my kids are through Russell Street. My kids got to have all these programs. If parents don't step up and give us 1 hour a month even, we can't give these programs back to the kids. And as you can see, we do put a lot of the extracurricular into like the classrooms. That extra touch of like teachers want to have a speaker or teachers want to have this, that's not in the budget for the school year. So we had a meeting Monday night and we had about 15 people show up, which was good. So we're hoping that we're set and that they'll move on, because like I said, my first is graduating this year, my oldest, so I'm starting to get towards the end. This is my 13th year in PTA, so And I was looking to step down. No, I'm not. I'll be here next year.
I appreciate that. As we get these updates, we see recurring programs that are in the various schools year after year after year. There's always innovation, but there's also repeat.
Yes, the owl pellets we've been paying for years.
Exactly.
I don't know, I don't think they do kindergarten, I don't know if they do kindergarten drumming anymore. We've been out of Schcmte for a while. But like Earthview at the middle school,
Right.
we pay for. The speakers have come the past few years, the
Right.
Holocaust speaker. We've done the STEM program at the high school for years. So
And that, having that continuity is only going to be able to be sustained if you guys can sustain your,
Our volunteers.
With those volunteer organizations, having been, part of different ones, that's doing one effort. People will always step up to do it, but it's trying to manage that transition and that continuity.
Right.
That's a challenge, and that clearly requires some people getting outside of their comfort zone and just realizing that if not me, who?
Right, I mean, that's the thing, we have something for everyone, like, we told people, what our treasurer for next year, so Lee Ellen Sturts has been our treasurer for years, and her youngest is a junior, so she needs someone to come in. Our treasurer next year, she works full-time, she travels, she is in Taiwan, every time I turn around, she's traveling overseas to China, but she still does it because she can do the majority of the work at home and on her off time, which I don't know when she has it, but she finds it. I mean, we have a lot of working parents that just now have said, you know what, I'm going to step up. I mean, I started working 2 years ago and I'm not in the schools anymore, but I'm still on the executive board, and it's, I don't know, to me, it's fulfilling to be able to help the schools and see the kids and not lose the programs that my kids benefited from back in those schools.
Right.
So if people could step up.
All right, any other comments or questions?
No, other than thank you and all of the people that have stepped up for the PTA. It's a wonderful contribution back to the schools.
We enjoy doing it. We do.
Awesome.
We're so fortunate to have this group, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you in the fall.
Thanks, all. Yep, see you in the fall.
All right, at this point, we're going to have a community member presentation in a Landsman. We'll talk about potential later school start times. Welcome.
Thank you. So thank you so much for having me and letting me present on this issue. I just want to start with a general question. As parents, how many of us have taken a child to see a doctor? And people just raise their hand if you've ever done it. And so our experience as parents is if doctors tell us something is really important for the health, safety, and wellness of our children, we find a way to do it, even if it's logistically difficult. Now, we may not like the advice, we may want to get a second opinion, or a third opinion, or a fourth opinion. But in this case, talking about start times, I forwarded an article to the school committee where the American Academy of Pediatrics strongly urges later school start times for the middle and high schoolers. And this is an organization of 67,000 pediatricians. We strongly urge this. And this is supported by the American Medical Association, the American Psychological Association, and there's a long list. They support it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to very briefly just talk about the science and why this is an issue, and then briefly talk about where I think the solution may lie. So why can't teenagers go to bed early? Why can't they put down their Red Bull and just go to sleep? Well, the science is pretty clear that once they hit puberty, their hormones change. So in other words, their melatonin spikes later. It takes longer for them to fall asleep. So you can send your teenager to sleep at 7 o'clock, and they're just not going to be able to fall asleep. So what that means is if they're waking up at 6 o'clock every single day, they're chronically sleep deprived. A teenager waking up at 6 is about the same as an adult waking up at 4. And we ask our kids to do this every single day. And so the effects of sleep deprivation, as the science shows, are pretty much what you would expect. It's drowsy driving, where they get into more car accidents. They're more likely to use drugs. They are more likely to get D's and F's. They don't pay attention in class as much. They're more likely to fall asleep while they're doing homework. And there are a lot, and in some of the articles I've sent you, it goes through a lot of these negative effects. And once schools start later, they're remedied. sleep is sort of the magic pill for a lot of this. Okay. And also, I know sports is a big issue, but there are also studies showing that more sleep means fewer sports injuries and better sports playing. So I'm just going to jump ahead a few slides. And next one, please. So, yep, that one.
Yep.
And so this is data from the U.S. Department of Education from about 2014. And at that time, Littleton had an earlier start time for its middle school, earlier than about 95% of the school districts in the U.S. And we've fallen further behind because more and more schools are moving their start times later. And for high schools, we're at about the same place. We're in the bottom 10%. So obviously, other school districts have figured out a way to get their teens more sleep so that they can excel academically and so forth. I'm going to skip that slide as well. Here I list just some of the schools that have recently found a way to move start times for their middle and high schools. And some of them are very local. As you'll see, it's Acton, Boxborough, Concord, Carlisle, Wayland, Belmont, Bedford, Lexington, and there's a long, long list of school districts that have recently made that change. Now, I'm by no means suggesting that the solution is easy. I'm not suggesting that this is a logistically easy problem. But what I think this problem demands is really a rigorous study of what we as a community want. I think this has to include the administration, it has to include parents, it has to include the teachers' union. And I just want to talk about a few possible solutions because I know you've talked about this a few years ago. So I don't think the solutions are just limited to flipping school start times because I know buses are an issue. I think what we should be thinking about is that the contract for buses, as I understand, expires in several years, and we have an option at that point to renew it. So I think we need to be thinking now about what do we want from the company that provides busing, and who else can provide it, so that we're not struggling with this when it's time to renew the contract. And we should also be looking to see what other school districts have done. For example, Bedford and Lexington are looking at more efficiency in their bus runs. So right now, as I understand, we need about 45 minutes for each school run, but there are inefficiencies. For example, where I live, there are literally 3 bus stops within 5 minutes walk from my house, and my daughter goes to the farther one because she likes the people there. But we don't need 3 bus stops. And so for example, if we move Shaker Lane to be 10 minutes later, we find 10 minutes in the Russell Street bus run, we find 10 minutes in the middle and high school bus run, we suddenly have 30 minutes. And that shouldn't cost much. So my point is there are lots of creative solutions that we should be looking at. And so what I'm asking the school committee is to form an advisory committee to look at this issue and look at it carefully and rigorously as the science and as the doctors demand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What I'd like to do is allow us to have a conversation, debate, ask questions, and then I will open it up to any other interested citizens that want to comment. So given that, any thoughts or questions or comments?
I agree that it's a very important topic. I think that it's something that I know it's been looked into before, but that we should take another look at. I know that we are sometimes bound by our budget, are often bound by our budget. But if there are other ways to come up with a solution that we haven't thought of before, then maybe we need to look into it more. I don't think there's any question about the science behind it and what's best for our students, and so we should be trying really hard to make it work.
Daryl?
I think I'm going to hold for a few minutes.
Okay. All right, Matt?
It is extremely complicated, but I do think it's something worth taking a look at with some fresh eyes. I know that Mark and Alex took a look at it 3 years ago, and they came up with some ideas. But, you know, there are a lot of constraints, and I've worked on this in my own district that I teach, and it might be worthwhile to get a new set of eyes on it and have somebody see if we can come up with any brainstorms that, you know. To me, my only question going forward is, you know, what the community would be happy with. Would they be happy with an 8 o'clock start time, or are we looking to go even further than that? You know, it's, you know, what is the ideal? So, you know, I think if you read the science, they probably want to even start even later, 8:30 or 9, but I don't know how feasible that would be. I think the more time you look to, the later you look to start, I think the more difficulty you're going to have. So I'm curious what the community would be happy with. I do think that our times right now are certainly a bit early. You know, I work at a high school and we start at 7:30, and you know, I have a lot of kids who sleep in first period. So.
Okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, this clearly is a multifaceted issue. I think, you know, the science is there. It clearly states that, you know, high school students and adolescents do better with later school start times. I would like to see, you know, other types of issues, you know, like you hear, well, if they get out of school later, then you're removing a half hour, an hour of homework. Well, then let's also attack that while we're at it. You know, what's the science on homework these days? I'm not saying we have to get rid of all homework, but that would have to be part of the solution if we're going to do that. As well as, you know, looking at the busing and, you know, when we did our youth behavior risk survey, kids are stressed out, kids are tired, kids aren't getting sleep. So it clearly is one of our priorities, I think, in Littleton. So let's find all the problems that could get in the way of it and make sure we're, you know, really looking into everything if we, you know. But I'm all for researching and figuring out what would work for the town. And I do think, since, I don't know if you have more information on how many towns have done this right around us in the past few years, but.
And what the times would be.
Yeah,
I'd be interested to see where, you know, I mean, I'm sure I can look it up, but
Yeah.
when is Acton Boxborough starting?
Because that impacts, you know, our sports, and what about teams that we're playing? Because that was one of the big issues before, is that, you know, well, if we ended high school later, we wouldn't be, you know, working, you know, those teams we play. But if they've also changed, then it might not be as big of an issue now. So there's a lot of stuff to look at.
And in terms of athletics, the teams we play are dependent on school size.
Yes.
So our reach extends fairly broad, depending on the sport. We have to take that into consideration as well.
Travel times and whatnot too. So.
And one thing I've seen is, or put out there just, is to have varied end times for school. So maybe Tuesday and Wednesday, the school gets out at 2, whereas on other days that they get out.
Typical game days, you would.
Right.
maybe get out earlier.
Right, so if you know, had your game days on, you know, you get out earlier, then, you know, that's one possible thing to look at. And again, it's whatever we come up with, it's going to require a lot of looking at every aspect, every facet of the problem. So.
It's not going to be easy, is
No.
what you're saying.
No, which is why I think you should lead this one.
I have some thoughts and comments. I'm certainly going to let Dr. Clenchey weigh in. Do you want to?
Yeah, I'll you know, I'm not opposed to us looking at the school start times. I mean, to me, it's not really been a discussion about being remotivated about the science or the other aspects of it there. It's all of the other constraints that try to then develop an optimal solution on it. Even the statement of sliding Shaker Lane back 10 minutes impacts a quarter of our population, which may have a very vocal opinion about their day starting. Well, I already know from the parents that complain about the 8:30 bus because it's too late, because it really messes up their day relative to a 9:30 start. Pushing it back 10 minutes has significant ripple impact there. So it's not an easy trade-off that we can make in the abstract there. I think we also have to be concerned or, realize that as we push the start time back, the end time changes. And based on, what do we have, 75, 80% participation in after-school activities at the high school level, what typically becomes a 2, 3 o'clock out, 2 hours of stuff, they usually get home 5 o'clock-ish. Now we're talking about they're getting home at 6 o'clock, 6:30, 7 o'clock. The end of the day becomes, a lot of them will say, yes, I want to go start later, but there's the other side of it is what time are they going to be done there? So it starts rippling into, I think, more than just a, just the simple sliding of the dates there. I mean, I personally have maintained since I've been on the committee, that the 6:30 bus is too early. It is really too early there. So how do we start eliminating that, going and looking at the options, but the realities of the budget keep coming back to do it. So I'm all in favor of it, but I think we also have to keep in mind there's no extra money laying on the table to do it, anything that's going to have a significant cost impact there. Even earlier this year, when we had parents talking about the desire for an additional school resource officer there, when we got to this time of the year, there was no room in the budget to add that position there. And, so I know there's a lot of wants and desires and things that we can do to improve our district, but I need solutions that we can actually execute against there. And that really needs to be, I think, the focus of any investigation. Like I said, I don't need the motivation. I need some actual solutions on the table that we can move against.
I have a few comments. I do think it's worthwhile to take another look at it. We have 3 new committee members from the last time we looked at it. You and I were here when we did it, but 3 members have since been replaced. So I have absolutely no problem taking another look at it. A couple comments. I would just be, the busing contract and evaluating other providers, we've seen, and it's been in the media, there are no other providers. Getting competitive busing bids is almost impossible. It's a very, busing companies have carved out their areas and they don't typically compete against each other, for better or for, well, I know it's for worse, but there's not a lot we're necessarily going to be able to do about that. So I would just offer that as some experience that we've seen when we've gone through multiple iterations of throwing our contract for bid out there.
And that's statewide and nationwide.
Right, exactly. It's not just Littleton, right? That's what I'm trying to say.
Right,
It was in the media.
And the State
Right.
Department of Education has also looked at what to do about that. So it's not just us.
Right. Go ahead.
I was going to say, well, the next time the contract comes around, we'll end up paying more because that's the typical, they'll bump it up.
But the real problem is that it's not a competitive bid. We get one bid from our provider. That's what happens, and we're not the only ones. That's a phenomenon that's replicating across the Commonwealth, as Steve mentioned. The other thing I would caution is that the idea of later start times, while the studies are out there supporting it, and we recognize that, it's not as universally accepted in the community as we may think it is. Because when the last time we did talk about this, and we've already gotten emails over the week when this was put on the agenda, explicitly stating that these parents and families are not in favor, for various reasons, of starting later. So I just want to make sure that when we look at it, that we're looking at it in an unbiased manner that supports what the community wants, and regardless of what decision we come to, we're cognizant that there might be other viewpoints out there, and we allow for them to be heard and considered, as well as people that are advocating pro. We need to let other people advocate con and give them the same amount of time and consideration as we always do. We always, regardless of how we do it, we would always solicit community input. And whether it's surveying families, talking to students, we know that staff would have to be involved in this, teaching staff, administrative staff, our athletic director, our business manager, because it does, obviously is affected, transportation affects what the possible solutions are. So I don't know that I would advocate for forming a committee that goes outside of the school committee and our administration. I would certainly advocate and support, and wouldn't allow it to be otherwise, that we would have multiple opportunities for community input. The only committees I've ever seen that have gone outside the school committee and the administration or other town employees is when we hire principals or the superintendent. The rest of the business is done by the elected officials and appointed officials from other committees, or elected officials from other committees, and our staff. So I just wanted to, that's just the way we've done it, and I would personally feel like that's the way we need to move forward. But I do think it would be worthwhile. At this point, I would like to see what Superintendent Clenchey thinks about it, because we did take a look at it fairly recently.
Well, we did, and first of all, I would welcome the opportunity to explore this one more time, but I'm going to be quite frank and explicit. It's going to cost money. How much money, we don't know. I've been involved in scheduling for many, many years, and I was around when we changed bus routes during the recession, and it was a method of finding money to put back into the classroom when things were really tight. So most districts across this nation used to have common start times for all their schools. As a result of the recession, where they went to staggered times to save money. So it was an admirable thing to do at the time, and it saved a lot of programs and kept class sizes at a palatable level. We do need to consider it, but I have heard very mixed reviews from community members, whether they would like later start times or perhaps they don't. I've also seen communities go through this process and get ready to change to later school start times and reverse it in the last hour because of community pressure not wanting to change the school start time. So I'm not sure where we are as a community in terms of having a pulse on what our community wants. I think that would be very valuable to have that information and figure out what do our parents want. One part of the conversation I think that's lacking and is very important is we need to bring some of our students in on this. I had the pleasure of meeting with students in middle school and high school this year in focus groups to talk about stress. And during that conversation, Creedy was actually part of one of those groups. We talked about start times, and it was really interesting to hear the various viewpoints of the students. They're broad-based thinkers. Make no mistake, we prepare them well, and they're ready to solve community problems and world problems as far as I'm concerned. So they need to be part of this. And if you think back to when you were in high school, and by the time you become a junior, you should be pretty independent. And because a school committee changes school start times doesn't mean that a student is going to change their behavioral patterns. And for a variety of reasons. Some people are wired that way. Some people can change, some people can't. So I don't want anybody in this room to think that if we do this, it's going to be a miracle solution to some of the things that we deal with at the school level. It will help some students. It will not help other students. But I know the literature is clear on the benefit, but there are so many different variables involved in this. Somebody pointed out that if we, say, change the school start time by an hour, then we're pushing all these other activities back an hour on kids in terms of homework when they get home from sports or other extracurricular activities. They're getting home later. They still have the same amount of work. We can review homework, and as a district, we've been looking at homework for years and making sure that homework is something that's valuable and not just replicating what students already know. But the cold reality of it, by the time you hit middle school and high school, homework is part of the reality of education. So we're not going to get rid of homework. We're going to continue to get better at how we have students work on homework. And we've done things like flipped classrooms, et cetera, and that's greatly improved some of the things that our students are doing in terms of extra preparation for their classes. But I am an advocate personally of doing something as long as that's what the community wants. This is the earliest start times I've ever had in a district in my entire career, but it's not that much earlier. On average, I guess, of the districts I've been in, 8 o'clock start time for high school. Very seldom have I seen a start time beyond 8 o'clock. They're out there, but they're not really plentiful.
I think one other thing to keep in mind is that the consensus I'm getting is that we should take a look at it. And now what we have to figure out is what's the best mechanism for doing that in a way that allows us to either determine a change of course or determine why we're not going to change course, so that we all understand, the people sitting here and in the community understand that, we've looked at it and we just feel like, we can maybe do these things, but we're not going to be able to do these things because these are the constraints. So we can, get that straightened out. I would caution, there is no way that we would be able to undertake this and get anything done for the fall of 2019. The best we would be looking at would be the fall of 2020. I think what I would like to do, based on the consensus that we have, is have the superintendent and I sit down and brainstorm on some ideas about how to move forward, the makeup of a committee, what the charge would be. Because I think last time, one of the disappointments that we had was the charge was maybe not as specific as it should have been, and it bled into some things that we weren't necessarily thinking we were going to evaluate, and maybe we didn't give it as much opportunity to be successful as we should have. And then what I would like to do is we can come to our next meeting with some ideas, and maybe we can take a vote on how we want to proceed as a board, and then go ahead and execute on that. I'd like to start, we can, obviously we're getting towards the end of this school year, but at least we can know which direction we're going to go in, and even if that means we don't start again until September, at least we're ready, and we don't lose time in September, October, trying to figure out how to do it. Are we okay with that? Thoughts, comments?
So are we all going to talk about it, about the makeup of the...
Before we make a decision, yes. Before we make any decision, absolutely. We would reach consensus and vote on it. It won't be a unilateral decision by the chair and the superintendent by any stretch of the imagination. But I think that we've heard enough, and we've had enough discussion, that we all need time to think about what's the best way to move forward. I don't think there's any argument that we're going to move forward with an opportunity to evaluate this subject. It's just a question of how. So let's all think about that, and when we meet in 2 weeks, we can have another discussion about it and try to reach consensus on the best way to move forward on how we want to evaluate this. All right? Okay.
And I am intrigued by looking at revisiting our pickup points. I mean, that's a great suggestion. There very well could be some efficiencies there that the bus company is missing. And we don't have, or the bus company more correctly doesn't have an automated route mapping program, so it makes it more difficult for us to actually dig into it. We're relying on their word quite a bit. So
Again, I would just caution, my kids would have no problem walking a quarter of a mile down the street to get the bus if I told them to do it.
Right.
Other families would, if they have to walk 50 feet to the next driveway,
Right.
they're not going to be happy about doing that. That's just the world we live in.
I get those calls every day.
So, trying to get the buy-in on stuff like that is often more challenging than coming up with a good idea.
I'll say even on my street, which is off of Great Road, we're on the only 50-mile-an-hour section there, and we needed to pull the bus stop off of the corner because there was no place for the kids to stand, and it's the acceleration zone for the 50-mile-an-hour segment there. So we pulled it as part of a request to have it pulled off of the highway up into the neighborhood, which a route optimizer is going to say, don't drive through my neighborhood for it. However, the safety factors of having kids stand on the edge of Great Road was just one that really wasn't really good.
And then there's snow in the winter and gets dark early and no sidewalks and lots of issues.
So,
I mean, I'm not trying to be hard here, but there's certain things when it comes to like student health and safety, like, yeah, that makes sense, Daryl, but,
It's the
You can't-
balance.
You can't change, you
it's-
can't not make a.
Oh, yeah, no,
a change for the
I'm just saying
significant- I'm not
is-
saying, Junior, I'm talking about like somebody who doesn't want to walk 50 feet.
The
like,
question
it's-
is, how much
The
capital,
trade-off.
social and political capital,
Right.
are you willing to give up to achieve what, nobody's arguing the benefit. The
Yeah.
last time we did it, there was no argument from that committee that the
Yeah.
science is legit.
No,
you know?
and the other thing, Jen, is it's a result of the things this community has traded off over time. The planning board in the past has consistently traded off putting in sidewalks. So a lot of our roads, even your road there's no sidewalk. So what's the safety trade-off of having the kids from your two houses, which are 100 feet apart on the road, walk down that road that's not plowed with no sidewalk? And it's only until this year we decided to plow sidewalks there. So we did have sidewalks in some cases there, but they were often filled with snow on it. Those are things the community as a whole has traded off in terms of things that we've given up on that make it more difficult for us to say, we're going to do bus stops every quarter mile. And you
I think
just
we're on the
walk
same
down.
page. I wasn't.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, it's just, so on some streets, we end up stopping almost at every house because there's no safe way for them to.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, safety is very important. But if, it's a parent saying, I don't really want to do it.
No,
That's not the type
I had a
of.
conversation
Yeah.
about one of those that we're stopping that. You can see in the
Every day.
policy.
I mean, Jen raises a perfectly valid point. We got elected to specifically be the ones to take the heat on stuff like that. That's part of the job.
Yep.
So we can't take the path of least resistance every single time. Otherwise, we'd be shirking
Right.
the responsibilities that we willingly accepted by virtue of running and getting elected. So I agree 100% on that. The question is just, as always, is where's the balance point, right?
Exactly. Yep.
And you might be surprised that it might take more work to get where you want to get. You know it's the right thing to do, but it's just going to take longer because you got to try to get as much buy-in as you can,
Right.
knowing you're never going to get all of it, but getting more makes it easier.
The example I'll use, since we're just talking, is the reaction when I first brought up the advertising policy. The initial reaction was exceptionally negative from a lot of people there. It took a long time, but by the time we got to the final presentation to the school committee, there was no community objection to that.
Yeah.
Even from the staunch people that were opposed to it there. So it takes time, it takes a process, and it takes making sure we actually get the buy-in, not just people saying and then complaining at the last minute.
All right, so I think we know at least what the next step is, and we'll take it one step at a time. And thank you. You'll see it on the agenda, and we can certainly keep you guys in the loop. All right?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Sorry, any other community input on that particular topic? I don't want to, I did offer it, I don't want to miss. All right, seeing none, thank you, we'll continue. So the next agenda item is a draft of the social media policy. Natalie?
I brought my readers in case I need them. I'm going to hope that I don't tonight, so here we
You
go.
will someday.
I think this is
I have them.
Question might not ask.
iteration number 20.
I know. We have been working on this social media policy quite a bit this year. Julie and I, with the help of Dr. Clenchy and admin council, have been really trying to fine-tune our social media policy, which there wasn't one before, but now we want some transparency of how our staff uses social media. We thought that was really important. We always ask for permission to post and permission to put on various social media. Well, what does that mean? So that's why we created this policy draft, and we started with the staff responsibility for their professional account with social media, and then content and confidentiality. So we've gone through a lot of iterations, as Dr. Clenchy has mentioned, probably a good 20 to 25. We've gone back and forth. We've shortened it to make it more concise. Daryl, I know you like concise. It was 2 pages. We brought it down to 1. We really worked hard. So that's what we wanted to review and have people look at and see if you had any questions on the verbiage that we've included thus far.
And this is an internal organizational policy that we wanted to bring it to you for some advice and some input. We want to make sure we get it right.
And the other thing I would like to emphasize is this is a social media policy for staff.
Correct.
Right.
Not students.
Correct.
Yeah, and you know, and that's why, you know, we've gone around in the terminology a couple of times in terms of which ones are procedures of the administration versus policies of the school committee. And I'd like this to make sure this sort of stays in that category. It's the guidance, because it also can touch, got to be careful of any contractual issues or other things there, and we can't drive those from our policy perspective there. So,
We do not manage staff.
right.
Superintendent manages staff and his administrative team.
But I do agree in terms of, you know, defining it a little bit more clearly for folks is a good idea. There's been evolutions in the use of social media, but I'm always a firm believer in the professional side should be separated from the personal side, particularly in this case when there are minors involved.
Correct.
There for it, and mixing those is just something I'm not been comfortable with for it. I had seen some of those drafts, Kelly had just cycled them to me, so I'm comfortable with what I've been seeing in here.
Any other thoughts or
It look,
comments?
I think it looks great, and thank you. I just had one question about when parents sign a permission form to allow their children's release of pictures and so forth, does it separate it out like social media or newspaper, or are they giving a blanket permission?
Yeah, it's more of a blanket paragraph, and we've looked at this because going forward, we're looking at doing a contact verification workflow. So instead of papers going back and forth, it's all going to be done through Aspen.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to make that concise for everyone, we have one big blanket statement for every child in every school.
I just wonder if some parents would be okay with it be going into the Littleton Independent or being circulated among, you know, having their picture posted at a school event or something like that, but not necessarily on social media, if that's something that we might want to break out.
Boy, we've been having these discussions for
The
years. And
independent posted on social
Yeah.
media.
part of the challenge is just what you said, Daryl. We, as soon as we post it anywhere, we lose control.
Yeah.
And all it takes is one. And it's just amazing how quickly, even if we did do that, we don't have any control if somebody in the audience snaps a picture and then posts it on social media and then it's tagged. And so what we're trying to do is make sure that whatever we ask for, we can actually deliver and not give parents a false impression of what we can actually control and what we can't. We're very good about, especially with our older students in the district, from Russell Street up, and even at Shaker Lane, although it's certainly your questions are asked very differently, but Russell Street up, most of us, 99% of us, I would hope 100, but I very seldom use 100 in this case, talk to students before they take a picture or ask them. So that communication, we've trained our staff really well, and I think that's really important. If you're going to take a picture of some high school students in the library, I think you should approach them and ask them if it's okay, and then tell them what this picture is going to be used for. So we really encourage that practice throughout
I think Erica makes a really good point, though. I think when we think about those release forms that we send out in the fall, that we know aren't necessarily the linchpin of how we manage on a day-to-day basis the distribution of all media, but from a legal perspective and a responsibility perspective, it's definitely a part of what we do. We might want to think about making a distinction between social media and traditional media, because parents might say, oh, I have no problem with you posting photographs in the hallways of the schools or in printed media, which is going to die in a few years anyway, but I definitely am not comfortable with social media, and allow them to make that distinction. I think it's a simple enough modification to those forms to just, make that distinction between social
Well, and
media.
I don't know, when it was a paper form, you could kind of choose different things, right?
Right.
I mean, have a pretty unique last name, right? So I always said, yeah, you can post my kid's picture, but not with my last name, you know? So, because anyone can find me anywhere, you know, if you know the last name. So I don't know, I just,
It is kind of blurry. I mean,
It's hard.
If you look at how much we use Twitter, and we tag pictures all the time, and we have thousands of pictures in our district. Because what we really try to do is bring the classroom to our parents and to our community. We've done a great job of that. But for example, I probably tweet 80 to 100 pictures a week. Some of them are my own pictures that I take. Others are pictures that I tag from teachers in the district, administrators in the district. We have pictures running through our media centers at each school. We use those pictures to develop our district slideshow. So it's so blurry. You have a point of presentation, but all of a sudden that point is no longer a single point. It just expands so rapidly, and that's the challenge that we're having at this point in time. And I don't want to say you can't tag a picture of somebody in the district. I mean, that's a great way to get the message out and to have people find out what we're doing in our schools and in our classrooms. So it's not easy.
and going back to the permission, I guess what does it say? Does it say
It's a yes or no.
Can your child's picture be taken, or is it, can your child's picture be posted, or is it?
Do you have that wording with you?
Well, I'll tell you what, so we've kind of diverged a little bit. It's a legitimate issue, but rather than bog, because we were talking specifically about the social media
Yeah,
policy,
yeah.
so we've gone off on a tangent, which is a valuable tangent, but I think that we've raised enough concern. Let's give the administration time to research it and come back to us with where we're at, and then, this can be certainly should be a separate effort from that. And we'll leave it at that for the moment. And try to get some clarification about how we want to proceed, preferably before the next school year. It may not be anything, it probably won't be anything significant, but it might be enough to placate some concerns that have been raised.
And we're really trying to automate as much as we can. I mean, we're a lean organization, and the more efficiencies we can create, it's hard to find time for our staff to sit and go through paper materials when you can electronically upload them and then
That's the way to do it. The question
data.
is, what's the content?
Absolutely.
Right.
And just a real quick thing, like, I had a student this year whose parents said, no pictures, right? But, so do you not want me taking pictures in class? I mean, I teach kindergarten, their pictures are everywhere. It's their name tag, it's their, it's everywhere in the class. Do you not want me taking pictures? Do you not want their picture in the slideshow at the end of the year? Do you not want their picture in the, pictures that I take all the time? And once I got that clarification, no, they were fine with it being used in the classroom. They didn't want it posted anywhere.
Yeah.
So I think that's a difference.
Right. All right, we'll take a look, circle back on it.
It's a very helpful conversation, and we're trying to figure out what to do ourselves. So it's very valuable.
You're not requesting a vote on the social media policy, you just want to keep it?
No, just we're asking for input in case we might have missed something.
I think we're all happy with
Oh,
it, thank you.
that's
Appreciate it.
Perfect.
All right, you good?
Thank you. Thanks.
All right. We're going to move on to school improvement plans. We were going to have two, one from Russell Street and one from Shaker Lane. However, Mr. Schcmte had family commitments tonight, couldn't be here. We'll move her to the next meeting, but we will hear from Scott Zidlow on the school improvement plan for Russell Street.
Hi, folks. Excuse me. Thanks for having us. I am super proud of the work that's been done at Russell Street this year between our faculty and our students. It's been an exciting year. So rather than read this entire list to you, I'm going to highlight what I would consider some of the bigger rocks in each category. If I don't hit one that you have questions about, I'm happy to answer questions at the end. The first one is an adaptation of our intervention block. You've heard me talk multiple times previously about, we had an RTI reading block and for a couple years we had a WIN math block. They were 30 minutes each. This year our scheduling team moved to a single 45-minute intervention block that's called WIN. It's called What I Need. It allowed for a little bit more quality instruction time when you take into the travel of students, a 30-minute block. Teachers were feeling really rushed. So during that time, the goal is for students to get something that's at their instructional level. And so we have students who may go to a Tier 3 intervention depending upon their level of need. We have students that go to a Tier 2 intervention. We have students who go to a Tier 1 intervention. And Tier 1 intervention would be they're meeting the benchmarks, but we're going to push horizontally for those students and give them some different types of experiences. We actually had some social emotional learning groups. We had a long conversation about there are some students for whom their social and emotional skills are what they really need, not necessarily an academic skill. And so finding folks to facilitate those groups and that type of thing is challenging, but we're trying to take a more global look at students when we think about intervention. So that's been a big step forward at Russell Street this year. I'm going to skip down to second step. I think we've talked here about the fact that Shaker Lane runs second step. We've always been a responsive classroom school. We'll continue to be a responsive classroom school. I'll talk about that later. But we have purchased second step kits. Teachers and parents were feeling like we needed a more explicit instruction for students. And so now we'll have a K-5 continuum where students are students are experiencing the same language from the same program and have that continuity. And so while we will add that explicit piece, we'll continue to be a responsive classroom school, which is more of a not passive, but more of an approach throughout the day, morning meeting, conflict resolution, those types of things. And so teachers have begun, those kits came in a month or two ago. Teachers have begun dabbling with them, and the feedback from the leadership team this morning was they're really pleased with it. Answer is the keys to literacy protocol that we've talked about a few times that we are now implementing in grades 3 to 8. It helps students answer extended writing tasks such as open response. One of the things that we found and many schools find is, at each grade level they'd have a great idea, but it would be a little different. We had students coming through having to learn a new protocol to try to respond to extended writing. So this PD that we had last year, this has been the first year that we've taught it. So in every grade level it's been as if a student was a third grader, because now that a student goes to fourth grade, they don't need to begin all the way back at A and teach them what A is. They need to teach them what answer protocol looks like at fourth grade. So this was our year to get all of our students acclimated, and with Fidelity we'll be moving forward with that. We're excited about the way it's going. We just finished MCAS. We had students using those strategies during MCAS, and teachers feeling really happy that they saw students doing that, using their scrap paper even though we were on the computers. So that's been a nice addition and the beginning of some of our consistency in writing. There's still work to do there. We'll still be looking at writing as a whole, but in that type of writing, it's nice to have something grades 3 to 8 that will be more consistent. Excuse me, as we move into professional development, you see the types of work that we've done, academic and social. I feel like this year, district-wide and at Russell Street, our sort of major push has been around social emotional learning. You look about the next bullet is students who are suffering from anxiety or may have experienced trauma. And Marzano and Rebus are authors of books that we've used with faculty this year that again talk about best teaching practices and how can we weave social emotional learning into day-to-day teaching. It's not a separate piece. How can we make all opportunities to grow and learn from a social and emotional perspective. Community communication. We continue to offer our Empowering Families 101 forums. We had our first one at night this year. We've had them during the day in the past. There's not a big crowd that attend them, but the people that attend them really enjoy them. This year was talking about helping your child be the best reader and mathematician he or she can be. I think one of the next ones that's planned either for later this spring or next fall is around mindfulness. So that team has grown and their expertise has grown, and so any ways that we can be working with families to help offer sessions in educational sessions for adults that they find helpful, we're going to continue to be committed to that. One of the ways that we expanded our partnerships with other schools this year, it's kind of nice. For the last 2 or 3 years, the middle school has been coming back to do a snippet of their play for all of Russell Street the week before the show to try to encourage kids to come to it. And so for the past 2 years now, grade 3 has taken their kids to go over to see a longer piece of it, but a still abbreviated piece of it. So this year, what's it called? Who pushed Humpty Dumpty, right?
Humpty Dumpty.
And so they saw it just up to the point, and then they didn't tell them who pushed Humpty Dumpty. To try to get them to be thinking about it, coming back to the show. And so teachers and students brainstormed, who do you think pushed him and whatever. So that's been a nice partnership, and the teachers and kids really like going over.
That's funny.
Good marketing, right?
And you're not going to tell us, right?
No, I didn't see the end.
You can tell now, it was his wife.
Be warned. Tonight, before I came here, I did second grade parent orientation night, and I'm not sure any of it. Did you do that? I didn't do that. I didn't do that with you, Erica. Did I?
No, you were the year.
Right, I missed you.
Yeah.
So it's a quick orientation session for parents, and at the end, I always did a tour, and it was a terrible tour, because if you weren't in the first 20 people, you couldn't hear anything that I was saying. I mean, the line stretches all the way down the hall, and I'd be saying to people, pass the word back, we're going by the think tank, and it wasn't great. So we've been thinking about how to make that better for parents, and I talked to Heidi McGregor, and so this year we just rolled out a video of 3 third grade students doing a video tour, and they start out at the sign at Russell Street, and we're going to show you, and they went to the playground and the outdoor classroom, and it was a really nice way to finish grade 2 parent orientation, because it highlights our students as creators with technology. And so they were so excited when Heidi said to them, would you like to help with this? And they sat down and brainstormed, what do you think parents of second graders would want to know? And so they walked through and showed how to get lunches, and so it was a really nice experience. And it has its limitations as well, but it was great to finish with sort of student voice, and again, students being creators with technology versus consumers. I'm going to skip down to climate and culture. Really, one of our biggest things this year, again, has been social and emotional learning, and that's not only with students, but it's also with adults. So we've had a positivity theme at Russell Street School this year, and some of the things that we've done are we created a Friday musical moment, and so there's a Google form that students can go to their teacher and request a song, or a teacher can request a song, and then every Friday morning we pick a time, and then no one ever knows exactly when it's going to be, and we make an announcement, and part of it is the musical moment, and it goes out to so-and-so in so-and-so's class, or to this teacher, and it's basically a school-wide movement break, where kids are dancing and enjoying, and we did some pre-teaching about what it's like when the music stops and how do we get back to work. But it's been really well received. We haven't been able to do it for the last few weeks because of MCAS, and students are repeatedly asking, like, why aren't we having our musical moment? And so that's been great, and along with that, there's another form where we've been doing student and staff shout-outs. And so faculty or other folks at school can go in and say, I want to give a shout out to Jen because she XYZ, or I want to give a shout out to these 2 students in my class because they helped clean up, after school help. And so the staff shout outs go in our weekly staff update, and the student shout outs are part of that Friday musical moment. And so we'll do the student shout outs, and often I'll have a student come down and help me do that. And so they'll do a little bit of the talking, and it's been really nice. It's just a nice community-wide positive thing to do. And along those same lines, at the end of that and at school-wide meeting, I feel a little bit like Ellen, because my theme has been random acts of kindness and encouraging folks, raise your hand if someone did something kind for you for no reason in the last week. Raise your hand if you've done something kind. Let's get more hands up next time. So it's really been just sort of a theme for us, positivity, and trying to keep the morale up and keep people having fun at school while they're learning. When we get to technology, most of what I'll talk about this year, even though our technology directors are here, are integration. And I can't say enough about Mrs. McGregor and the role that she's in, and technology has really become just totally integrated. There's kids in there all the time, like Heidi's got 4 or 5 kids who pop in on their way from the bus, and they do a couple quick things, or she's working with the music teacher collaboratively to do project-based learning where kids are coding instruments where they're using makey-makeys, and they do a circuit activity with art where they're create a greeting card that lights up. I mean, it's amazing the work that's been done. Students love the think tank. We've enhanced our digital citizenship program. Classes earn a badge when they go through the 3 or 4 lessons of digital citizenship, and so we have sort of a wall of fame of classes that have gone through the digital citizenship program. And we've just done some really cool things. Students are using our 3D printers beyond our wildest dreams. When we got the think tank several years ago, I remember, even for me, digital printers were relatively new technology, and we were thinking, it's kind of cool, but, what are kids going to do with it? And the way they're using the design process to design bubble wands and print them and then revise them and then print them again. And, fifth grade creates earbud holders for their lockers and, trying to solve new problems. That's what we're trying to get kids to understand, that a lot of this isn't the content that we're going to give you. It's about how can we give you the skills to solve this problem that you might face. And it's been a huge hit. PTA funded a pancake bot for the think tank at Heidi's request, and it's basically like a pancake 3D printer. So you can code the way you want your pancake to look, and it's a griddle, and you put the stuff in, and then the thing comes around and prints it like a 3D printer would print it. And there's a bit of a learning curve because say you're going to make a Mickey Mouse face, the eyes would be cooked longer, so it makes the eyes, and then it does whatever, and then it fills it in over. But already, within 2 weeks of having it, Heidi was visiting classrooms, and they were doing geometry with it. So they were creating shapes and, eating the shapes. And
Does a good Mickey Mouse pancake taste different than a crummy Mickey Mouse pancake?
no,
Does it
it's
come
the
out look like
coding
Mickey?
part that's important, not the pancake part.
Oh, okay. So all pancakes are being put to good use, no matter
Yes,
how it
they
comes
are.
out. All right,
Heidi
just make
came
sure.
and made pancakes for PTA to thank them for, funding it. So, lots of great stuff, passionate teachers. We have a lot of new staff who have fit in great over at Russell Street, and it's been a really good year. I'm proud of the work that's been done, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Jen, questions or comments?
Can you bring us the pancake?
Yes, that can be made to happen next year probably. I'll talk to Heidi about it.
Sorry, I picked the question.
I'm sure she would love to.
Yeah?
Yeah.
No, it sounds great. Thank you.
Everything looks great. I'd like to see us have a musical moment and break every meeting. So,
No, I'll say thank you very much.
How do you determine the win, who goes into what win group?
We have grade level data meetings 3 times a year that are half-day data meetings, so we're looking at a variety of data points during those meetings. The groups are fluid in the sense that we do the best we can, but then we have a progress monitor meeting halfway through where we may reshift students around. One of the things that can be tricky in this model is if a student has a need, say in math and reading, we work with parents to decide which we really think, if we hammer the reading for this block, it's going to be more beneficial than going 2 days of math, 2 days of reading. But we're sort of in communication with parents in those situations about what they think is best, what we think is best. And but overall, the design is meant to be fluid and flexible so that if we need to make adjustments, we can make adjustments.
Great. And I love the positive shout outs. I think that's wonderful. The only caution I would give, or just something to think about, is I always think about those kids that don't get them. The ones that, don't have tons of friends who aren't putting their name, submitting their name, and so.
Right.
Just something to
Yeah,
keep in
absolutely.
mind.
Sure.
Great, thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And before we go on, I want to just backtrack a bit. Mrs. McGregor is doing a wonderful job, but she also was fortunate enough to have somebody lay the foundation for her. And Julie Lord is that person. Julie has spent years in K-5 building the technology program and helping teachers integrate technology into their respective classrooms and creating that excitement to have a technology component within the lesson. And Julie, as we all know, we moved her into a senior administrative position, and we haven't forgot about you, Julie. We still remembered what you did. And you're still doing it.
It's fantastic.
Great. The next topic is handbook changes. Do we have them? 'Cause I
We
don't see them
don't
in the
have
packet.
any handbook changes this year.
Oh, okay, so we're just putting this on as a,
Well, when,
because this would be the time of year where we would do it.
true, but I really thought we'd have one, and they surprised me. So-
Okay, all right, no handbook changes. I have no problem crossing it off. All right, virtual field trip?
We promised you last meeting that we would take you on a virtual trip, actually 2 trips this evening, so.
I know, but now Heidi's pancake bot totally.
Can you wear readers with these things, Natalie?
So actually, so you can or you can't, so what we tell the students is you can kind of see which feels better for you. There's also an option of tablet mode, and we could talk a little bit about that. So some kids aren't loving, or maybe after a period of time, they want a different option. So we have a couple of different options.
Does
for
it make
students.
kids like motion sick sometimes?
You know what?
No?
No. So basically, the VR app that we use is Google Expeditions, and that app does not have a lot of motion in the app, so really it's just the user is controlling what their orientation is in a 360 image. So, and the kids do have a couple options, so Natalie is going to hand those over to you. The kids do have a couple of options to be able to do the same VR tour with the tablet open in a tablet mode, so we can kind of show you that too. So, yeah, so we are here to kind of demo this really exciting technology that we brought into the district a little over a year ago. So tonight we're going to bring you guys on a virtual field trip.
Where we going?
We're going to 7 Wonders of the World. Well, maybe not all 7, because I only have 12 to 15 minutes.
Yeah, don't go fast. I'm already a little
Don't go too
apprehensive.
fast. Oh, you think I'm going to go too fast?
I got sick on soaring at Disney.
So we brought these into the district a little over a year ago. So the VR, virtual reality, it's been a really exciting and engaging activity in the classrooms. So VR, so virtual reality for those who aren't very familiar with it. So basically using the viewer or using a headset, it creates an immersive visual experience that allows the user to, you're not going to be able to see anything yet because I didn't start. So it allows the user to kind of explore that 360 scene. Okay, so in the classrooms, yours might have kicked on now. Thank you. I just want to make sure it's all.
You have it?
Yeah.
No, I'm going to run the
Oh, okay.
thing so that people at home, will you
Are they already
explain
on?
Do we have a few
what the
extras?
people at home might see?
Yeah.
Wait, do we have a few extras?
So, I had virtual reality when I was a kid. We just called it ViewMaster.
Mike, what's really interesting is so these holders, the viewer is made by, it's called a grab,
do you wanna-
but ViewMaster now makes a holder. So if you notice inside, it's really just an iPhone or and it's an Android device. So an iPhone would work in there too. So in the classroom, we use an app called Google Expeditions, and Google Expeditions has over 900 different trips. So these trips can be anywhere from the North Pole to rainforests to, we even have ones that they're going inside the human body, inside cells.
Oh, cool.
So it allows the students to explore all sorts of like really cool places. What's also really awesome about Google Expeditions, the app that we use, is the teacher is able to guide the tour using a tablet. So the teacher is able to control what scene the students are looking at, and it also, every expedition has about 7 to 10 scenes in it, and each scene has maybe 5 to 10 points of interest with lots of content. So all the information that the teacher can is right in the app. Now at home, what you're seeing is a web-based version of this. So it's not quite as impressive as it is on the 3D. So I'm going to read you a little bit of information, and I'm going to point to you some points of interest, and you're going to see an arrow come up. So we're going to look at right now at the mausoleum. So this white marble, whoops, need some glasses. The white marble mausoleum where Mumtaz Mahal and Shah Jahan are buried is a huge dome structure whose outer and inner walls are decorated with intricate designs made with inlaid gemstones. And so I can see all your little faces on my tablet, so I know that you're looking at the right point of interest.
Well, now you tell us.
So now, you're looking at a mosque. The Mughal dynasty followed the Islamic faith. The mosque at the Taj Mahal has a large vaulted chamber under 3 domes and is still used today. So there's a lot of content in each one of these scenes. And typically an expedition they'll do in the classroom will last about 20 minutes. So I'm going to take you to another scene. maybe you can, I'll let you take a guess. So Steve, I'm just going to go to the next one if you want to entertain those at home.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I'm trying to keep up with you. but-
Okay.
It's Texas.
We're
wait,
now at the Great Wall of China.
That's here.
Over 20,000 kilometers long. This site is a massive barrier that stretches across northern China. In ancient times, the Great Wall defended China against invasions from the north. The fortifications consist of many smaller walls that were built and connected over a period of more than 2,000 years. So we're going to take a look at the large Jinsan Tower. This is one of 67 watchtowers along this section of the Great Wall. From its upper platform, there are stunning views across mountain ridges and down into the valleys. The lower sections of the tower contains barracks and storage rooms. So it's a really easy activity for our teachers to really engage the students in the classroom, and the fact that the content is here. So we're using this K to 12. They have a kit at every school. And so sometimes the content, they may, kind of summarize some of the, based on the age level. So we're going to do one more scene in this expedition, and then I'm going to share with you another expedition that's really fantastic. So.
Which one are you going to?
So, sorry, Steve, I forgot. So we're going to Machu Picchu, unless I just crashed.
We're there.
I mean, you really
Something
should.
like that.
I think so. We are.
There's another one here if anybody wants one.
I'll let you guys look around a little bit. Can I borrow yours? Oh, of course.
So Matt, if you twirl in your
So pretty
chair.
cool.
you can
So
get the
if,
same
so a lot of the students, so if they don't, after a while, you're like, Eric, I don't know. So if you don't, if the students aren't really, or if the glasses, the visual isn't really, then they can kind of open it and they can use it in tablet mode.
Oh, okay.
And then they can, actually, either you can look around or they can use their fingers. So they have some options. Not always ideal, so if you don't have a tablet. So those are the seven wonders of the world.
Oh, it's not 3.
Yeah.
You're going fast enough.
The short tour. There's one other expedition. Like I said, there's over 900 of these expeditions, and they're created by all different people. So this one here, I'm going to launch, so it should hopefully. So I'll let you take a peek at this and see if you can figure out where you are here.
Oh, boy, is that one of the 7 wonders?
This is Alumni Field. This expedition, which is called Welcome to Littleton MA, this expedition was created by Littleton students. We got an opportunity last year to work on a Google beta project that students were actually creating their own expedition, and this expedition was published in the Expedition app. So if anyone wants to view this expedition, if you just download the Google Expedition app and you search for Littleton, you'll be able to see. And we were one of just a handful of schools who actually got a published expedition in the app. So very exciting. We worked, it was grades, Russell Street, a couple of classrooms worked on one. In fact, this one, Alumni Field, this was Mrs. McGregor's 4th grade class last year, who kind of put these pieces together. They wanted to tell you a few things about Alumni Field. In the summer of 2017, the field was renovated into a state-of-the-art community facility. The field was originally built 50 years ago and was in dire need of updating. The multi-use field is used for soccer, cheerleading, lacrosse, field hockey, and football. We're going to bring you to the 50-yard line. The 50-yard line features the Littleton Public Schools Tiger Paw logo. Other things that they thought were very important, the snack shack. The amenities building was also included in the construction project. The buildings features men's, women's, and families' restrooms. I'm gonna move on to, this is one of my, so the students, this is an 11 scene expedition, so these were the places in Littleton that they thought were really important and that they wanted to share with the community. So we're gonna go to another scene. This scene was done by who are now 7th graders, Kennedy and Eliza, worked on this scene together. Here we are at Long Lake. Sorry, Steve. So now we're at Long Lake for those of you at home. So I think that's a couple scenes in. This is a beautiful lake surrounded by flora and fauna. It has a sandy beach, a snack shack. I love it. With the playground. Fishing, swimming, using boats are common here. The Littleton's Appleman Triathlon starts and ends here. So these are some of the facts and research that they had found and the points of interest that they want to share. The lake, actually a pond, but was named a lake to attract tourists. This is where you can swim. I thought this was really, because this is they found this information, by doing lots of research. The houses. In the 1900s, these were cabins where vacationers could stay. They were usually used as summer homes, but most of them now have been built on so you can live there year-round. So they have a bunch of different points of interest. So like I said, this was a really exciting project for people at home, or if in the future you guys want to check this out. Like I said, you can download it from the Google Expedition app. Just look for Littleton MA, and all the students who contributed, their names are in these. So definitely check it out. Any questions about these?
So how many are in a kit?
So we have, some schools have 25 and some have 30. So anywhere from 25 to 30. So they come with, and they actually have their own little router there, so it kind of creates their own little wireless network. So it's easy to kind of be portable and
can you, are they all like still pictures that you look around in, or can you zoom in like,
Yeah, so Expeditions now. So Google Expeditions is the app that we typically use because there's so much information and content in it. But that's just one VR app. So there's so many other apps that we just really haven't bothered with before. But Google Expeditions is stationary. Right, so other than looking around in that 360, there's no movement, and there's also no activation. Like some VR, there's actually a button on those if you notice. Like some VR, you can click and there's some sort of activation. So there's a Google Cardboard app that we have kind of explored that has some of that feature, but we've been using just Expedition only because the content is so rich. And there's so much to choose from. But there's some crazy ones, like Beth Morgan, 8th grade social studies, did the plague. So it was kind of a simulated one. They have inside the human body, inside cells, like some really exciting. And they're coming out with more and more. So it's been a really engaging activity. And I think the more and more teachers are getting comfortable with it, we usually provide support or an intro or PD. But now teachers more and more are comfortable just pulling a cart into their classrooms. And post-MCAS, we usually get more use of this type of technology because there seems to be more space in the school day. So. Well, good. I'm glad that you enjoyed.
That was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, did you do? Yeah, good. Thank you.
All right, going into new business, the MASC-MASS Joint Conference 2019.
There's some information's in your packet. It's probably a good time of year to at least mention if you would like to create some type of change and put it into the MASC delegation process. It takes some time to develop an appropriate motion, so to speak. We haven't, did we do that once? I'm trying to remember.
We tried. I started the process and I didn't get it in.
Right.
There. It was about establishing a statewide committee to look at the 2 vacations, spring vacations.
Yes.
that we
Right,
have,
that's right, too.
There, because again, no one community can really change.
Right.
Right. So the conference is on November 6th to November 9th at Hyannis. And every year, we have an opportunity to send a delegate to vote on the bylaws that are being presented. So this time of year, we always ask for somebody, I know it's a long time away, but if you think you can attend on that Friday or all 3 days, that would be great. The actual delegate assembly is Friday at 3:15, I believe it is. So you don't have to jump on board today. I just wanted to present it to you, and if, maybe in June meeting, if somebody's ready to commit, that's great. If not, we can certainly do it.
Anybody that's interested, just email Kelly.
Sure.
Feel free. I know that I won't be going, but anybody else that wants to take the time, you're more than welcome. We've had people go before.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. I went last year.
Yeah.
Nice. I'll look into it. I could probably go for the voting and, maybe one day. I couldn't take 3 days to go.
I don't think I'd have that much fun.
Yeah.
No, it's a good opportunity because they have presentations and other
Yeah.
conference
Yeah,
things.
right.
That, even if you just go that one day, I think the morning still has some activities.
It's a great opportunity to meet other board members as well, and a great way to network, find out what's happening in the state.
Yeah, I found it was really interesting talking to school committee members from some of the larger cities, and it's like totally different sets of issues that come up for what the day-to-day problems are. I thought the most interesting one, sorry to monopolize time here, is the one that said that putting washing machines in so that kids could wash their clothes and have clean clothes had a tremendous impact on student attendance. It's like an issue that isn't even like anywhere near our.
It was interesting.
Yeah, very.
All right. Next, we have the list of colleges.
Colleges, our students, as always, are going through a variety of different colleges and universities and post-graduation programs, 52 different colleges. We have
These are the ones they're actually planning on
Attending,
matriculating at
you bet.
versus the acceptance would be a much
Yeah,
larger.
this is
list.
what they've committed to for next year. Wide variety. We have 110 graduates this year in 54 different areas, so they're not sticking together, obviously. They're venturing out into throughout our nation. And it's really interesting to look at some of the universities and colleges that they've chosen. And, the patterns change from year to year. Each class is somewhat individualistic in terms of what they choose. So if you look at the bottom, out of the 110 students, 90 of our students chose four-year colleges, and 12 chose two-year community colleges. And post-grad career, we have 4 students, workforce 3, and military 1. And if you go up to, where is it here? Neshoba Tech post-grad program, we have 1 student attending that next year. It is incredible that Neshoba Tech has ventured out into post-grade 12 education. And the program that they're offering now, pretty well all the students that go into that program have a job when they finished. So it's really a great opportunity for students that want to go for a 2-year post-high school program and then end up in a cutting-edge industry. And then from there, they can get some experience. If they choose, go back and take a 4-year degree and keep moving up the ladder. But it allows them to get into the workforce, into a field that's in demand. And I think we're going to see more and more of that in the future as we try to make sure that we provide a variety of opportunities for our students as they finish high school. Excuse me, we all know that the generations that are graduating are going to be faced with many career changes. The days of working for one organization for your entire career are almost gone. I mean, school districts and colleges have some sense of historical permanency, so to speak, but even they've changed quite a bit terms of colleges and universities. Tenure in universities is what it used to be like 30 years ago. Now they fill their universities with adjunct professors who typically are in the field and teach classes on a part-time basis. So it's always intriguing to see the choices that our students make, and also for us, the ongoing challenge is to make sure that our students are, I hate using the word college ready, I'd rather use the words or phrase more correctly. We need to continue to redevelop the portrait of the graduate so that they have the skills that they need to be successful. And we always survey our students after they've gone, and most of our students maintain contact with us, which is really nice. And they give us feedback on what they felt their high school education was like. Beth and I were just talking, probably a month ago now, but we would really like to create an opportunity for some of our graduates to come back and talk to our high school students and talk about their experiences at college, and also talk about what kinds of things that they felt they needed to be successful, so that we have that direct connection with our graduates and students that are getting ready to graduate. So kind of exciting to make that happen. Any questions?
Thank you. All right, any other new business? All right. That's another opportunity in the meeting and towards the end for input from interested citizens. All right, quickly go through subcommittee reports, PMBC.
No updates.
Okay. Budget subcommittee, we have no updates. Policy subcommittee? Okay. We will require an adjournment into an executive session for the purposes of contract negotiation for the superintendent, with no intention to return to open session.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the executive session for purpose of contract negotiations with the superintendent with no intent to return to open session.
Motion made, seconded. This is a roll call vote. Erica?
Aye.
Gerald?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
I say aye as well. All right, our next meeting is June 6th. It will be preceded with our retirement ceremony at 6 o'clock at Shaker Lane. Not at the high school, at Shaker Lane, at the library at Shaker Lane. All right? All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you, LCPD. Appreciate it. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks.